Back for an all-new edition of the Clearing the Crease podcast, powered by BODOG.EU. I'm James Cybulski. He is the Stanley Cup champion, Mike Commodore. Commie, are you in one already?
No, you know what? After the Mexican trip about 3.5 weeks ago, I think, the worst I've ever felt. I felt so fat, slow, and stupid that I'm like, you know what? This is a joke. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, this is disgusting right now. So I cleaned it right up for the last 3 weeks until Friday afternoon. I was just telling Razor a little bit earlier before he popped on, we're supposed to have a golf event, like a Christmas Bad Santa 2-man kind of fun game at Whisper Rock. But it got rained out because these guys are a little bit soft. Like, it was cloudy and it had rained a little bit, but I'm like, come on, let's go. We can play in this. So instead, I just got shelled right and it didn't take many drinks. Usually it takes.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
It was awesome. Yeah, I had like 7-8 drinks, and I wasn't really expecting it, and I was in one.
That's a good thing.
Oh,
it's good to turn the faucet off every once in a while, just to know that you can, right?
100%.
Just to know that you still can.
I try to do a dry month every year just to,
January is mine.
Well, it's funny. My wife's birthday is in January, so she kind of shut that down years ago, where she was like, January, you're not doing dry January. You pick another fucking month. I want fun, right? I don't want boring James. I want fun James. So, yeah, it's just, look, people drink to get drunk, right? So, nobody drinks to just hydrate. You know what I really need after a long day in the office? A vodka soda, right? No. You're drinking a vodka soda because you don't want to get fat.
That's right.
That's all. All right. So, Commie, you're keeping it real. Razor, how are things on your end? You're like planes, trains, and automobiles now.
Yeah, planes, trains, automobiles. I got to enjoy Winnipeg and Minnesota for the first time in 7 or 8 years. So that was a treat. Bouncing around. It's that time of year. Lots of hockey games. So
2 loud barns though, right? It's funny.
Minnesota's an unbelievable barn. Really is.
It is nice.
Yeah. They do a great job. I forgot how nice it was. And actually to sit up and kind of be a part of it. It's a cool place to go watch a game for sure.
Nice. All right. Well, we got lots to get rolling into here on this edition of the Clearing the Crease podcast, including our special guest this week, over 800 games in the NHL, 2,500 penalty minutes. Oh yeah. He put some time in the sin bin. Also over 100 goals in his career, over 100 assists. Matthew Barnaby, also analyst extraordinaire as well, with a few stops. Never at a loss of words, Matthew Barnaby. So Barney's going to drop by in just a few minutes as well. Plus, Alex Ovechkin firing blanks these days. Is the Gretzky records a little safer now, or is it still under threat? We'll get into that with the boys as well. Plus, coaching changes left, right, and center this NHL season. All that, New Year's resolutions, who knows what's going on here in 2024, but buckle up, get your skates on, and let's get ready to hit the ice in this new edition of the Clearing the Crease podcast. And just a quick reminder here before we dive in, that the NHL season is cooking. The action, red hot. So all you need to do to stay in on the action each and every night is make a play with BODOG.EU. BODOG's got you covered with action every single night, game odds, prop bets, you name it. You can stay locked in for every single shift thanks to BODOG. And hey, make a play, score big, hang out with your friends. We keep it real right here at BODOG.EU. And new players, you can take advantage of the BODOG bonus. Use the code CREASE400. That's CREASE400 when you sign up. All right, let's get into this week's edition. And joining us, our special guest for this week's edition is a guy who, man, you talk about a guy who just always amped up the intensity on the ice. Some would describe it cleanly as a shift disturber. But, man, I just think of so many battles. Whenever there was action on the ice, this guy was in the thick of it all. Matthew Barnaby. Barney, how are you? A fellow Ottawa guy. We need more Ottawa guys here on this show, by the way, guys. Barney, how are you?
I'm good, Shiva. I've learned a lot. We all have something in common. By the way, go to BODOG, take the over, not chocolate milk. It's going to be a rough Christmas Eve. And
what's it set at, like 20?
hey. It just started. It's only noon on the East Coast.
Okay.
It's earlier.
Fair enough. My
Just give me
bad.
2 fingers.
And if you think I believe that you went 3 weeks dry, Connie, that is such bullshit. And
Okay, there was one afternoon where I took the dog for a walk and I went to a scramble golf tournament and I didn't play, but I did have 5 or 6 cocktails. That was right in the middle.
Yeah.
That was it.
And Seaball, how fucking bad are our wives? Like, I wanted to do like the dry January, dry December, and I came back from Vegas a couple weeks ago, and I was literally in Commies one for 10 days straight, like hard. I come home and I said, I'm not drinking till the cruise on December 31st. She goes, I hate sober Matt. Skinny Matt, sober Matt. Give me the fat drunk Matt every day of the week. So we're trying to quit drinking. They just won't allow us to.
You're trying to be responsible, right? You try to be responsible. You try to be modest. You try to be, and you keep getting pulled back. It's like Don Corleone, right?
Doing this for her.
Try to get out. Back in.
It's all about keeping the wife happy.
Barney, I'm gonna just quickly right out of the gate. One of the first time I ever saw you, it wasn't on the ice, but you and I will appreciate this and also date ourselves quite well, going back to the 90s. But I was standing in line because I didn't quite have any stroke at that point to try to get into Stony Mondays in the Byward Market. And I remember seeing this guy being almost carried out, and it's still relatively early. Right? And it's like, holy shit, that's Matthew Barnaby. Right? and right in that moment, like knowing, all right, he's just like me. I appreciate that.
Yes, Stony Mondays was a staple in the market, on tap on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday was really good.
Yep.
The best thing is, I grew up really poor. I had zero money, and this is my first time really talking to Razor. But I grew up with a mom and brother and grandmother, never had a dad around, so single parent family, and never had money. So my wife now was actually one of my good friends, and we had a group of guys that would go out. I never had money growing up. So I'd go out with these guys and I'd have beers. They would take care of everything for me. Like literally, I never paid for a bill because I didn't have any money. And I'd be like, I can't go out. I have no money, whatever. So fast forward 2 years, I signed my first professional contract with Buffalo. And my agent, Larry Kelly, who's from Ottawa, sends me a message like 2 months in. He goes, please tell me On Tap and Stony Mondays is a gym. Because all my credit card bills would go to Larry and to the office because I was 19 years old. I'm like, Larry, I owe a lot of people for a lot of years, but literally for 2 months straight, every single night, it was like shawarma, poutine, 600.
And they had the 2-for-1 shawarmas in those days too, back in the 90s.
Yeah,
like,
very good.
2-for-1, like street meat. Let's go.
Yeah, it was. I'd love to say that I wasn't carried out of Stony Mondays, but listen, I've been carried out of better bars.
Barney, I think
you're representing though, man. I got respect for that from those times because I was that guy too.
Barney, we've done a couple events together, and you tell when you get. I don't know if you guys have seen when he's on stage. He's spectacular. Tell me about, since we're like back in the day here. Like I think you told a couple stories about. I mean, I know there's so many, but. Like about your first NHL training camp, like coming out of junior and how that went and like what you had to go through. I think you were fighting I mean, from what I recall of the story, it was a total shit show.
Yeah. Like I went to junior, like I was always, anyone that played at that level was always the best player on their team and usually one of the best players in their league, depending on where you're from. I was from Ottawa, 73 birth year that had a lot of great players that never made it. And, when I got to junior, I had been cut in Bantam twice. I'd been cut in midget, and I was the last overall pick in junior. And, I literally went to junior, fought 13 times in 2 days till the coach came and said, hey, stop. Like, you're okay. Like, we need to see a little bit more. I didn't think I was good enough to make the team. So I told my mom and brother, and my brother just said, stand out. So fast forward that a couple of years, and now I'm starting to have success in junior, and I get a nickname, Killer. I don't know why, because I had like 150 fights in junior. I won one, like literally won one. And I'm coming home and I got this nickname Killer. And it's like, not something you want in the Quebec League when you got Donald Brashear and Sandy McCarthy and Gino Ojic and plethora of guys along the way. So fast forward, you get drafted to Buffalo. And again, now you're like, okay, I got a recipe for success. Ended up having a lot of success in junior as a scorer and obviously put up a lot of penalty minutes. So now you're like, okay, who's the tough guy here? And it's Brad May and Rob Ray, by the way. Great picture of Rob and Brad at Christmas. Great job.
Reindeer just going at it.
Just Maisie giving it to him. Just Maisie giving it to Razor one more time.
His new meeting to Mayday.
But yeah, I showed up at the first training camp, and we used to have a dinner where the Knoxes, who were the owners back then, would host, and you'd go around and you'd say where you were from, what position you played, and team. So I'm like, gets around to my turn. I stand up, and I'm like Matthew Barnaby, Beauport Harfangs, Snow Owl, very intimidating bird, by the way, in Beauport. And I was like right wing. And out of nowhere, Razor yells, "Killer gonna get killed." And anyone that knows Rob Ray knows he's a loose cannon, and he's one of the toughest around. And I've watched him for years.
Yeah,
like just sick tough. And I'm just like, all right. And I'm sitting with all rookies, and they're like, dude, you're in shit, man.
You're in trouble.
It's coming. Like I went from this dinner, and I'm sweating all night. Like I fought a lot of tough guys already, but now you're taking the next step to fighting men. You're not fighting boys anymore. Even though they might be big, these guys are men that do it for their living. So the first day, I literally go after Razor, and I chase him down, and I slash him. I'm like, let's go. So he beats the living shit out of me. Like, I don't get one punch, and he hits me 14 times. We go into the penalty box, come right back out. I chase him down the ice, and I spear him in the gut. I'm like, let's go again. This time he cuts me over the eye. Go back in, come right back out. And there weren't refs back then. There were just people that grabbed our gloves. Like, there was no penalties, or like you could two-hand a guy over the head, and you're like, that's not a penalty. Like, or you get a penalty shot to go in, like something stupid. So the third time I come back out, and I actually get Razor pretty good, and I got him pinned. And now he's like, so we're picking up our gear. I'm like, I did pretty good. Guys are tapping me on the ass and whatever. Out of nowhere, he comes and suckers me right underneath and right in the face and knocks me back. Well, I chase him down again, and we go at it again. So yeah, it was like 4 times in like 3.5 shifts. and it's funny because we had just had rookie camp probably a month and a half earlier, and Brad May is the nicest guy in the world.
He's awesome. One
of the people you want to be afraid of, because you never know when he's going to snap. He can be hugging you and then sucker punch you at the same time. Like he's got that loose wire. And we had, we're going to training camp. I'm like, well, I have to fight. And there's only one veteran here. Maisie was already pissed that he had to be at this rookie training camp. So we're skating around, and I didn't know this, but I run at him, and he elbows me right in the face, knocks me down. I shake my gloves, and he's like, no. I'm like, what the fuck? No. Like, I'm 165 pounds. Like, he's fought everyone.
Yeah.
Next shift I come out, I run at him again, gives me a shot. Nothing. I'm like, Maisie, let's go. He's like, no. And I didn't recognize me. He was looking up, and John Muckler, the coach GM, had told him, they really like me, but don't fight Barney. Like, you're going to kill him. And we like what he brings to the table, but we don't want you fighting either. So the third time comes around, and I run at him, and he literally cross-checks me right in the face. And I go down, and I drop my gloves, and he looks up, and they shake their head yes. And he lays a beating on me, like a beating. But typical Mayday fashion, it's in the middle of July in Niagara Falls, and we're skating around the rink, okay, to try to lift the fog.
Fog, yeah.
And Maisie comes up beside me. He's like, hey, Killer. He's like, I fucking love you, man. I fucking love you. And that's his personality. He just gets into it, right? And he's like, go run at these other fucking dummies. He goes, I love you. I want you part of my team. He goes, I'll defend you. He goes, just stay away from me, please. It's July.
It's July.
It's July. Barney, this is like looking at going through the numbers, the most incredible stat line of a junior hockey player there has to be. 63 games, 29 goals. How mad are you didn't get to 30 goals will be my first question after I read the rest of the stat line. 29 goals, 37 assists, 66 points, 476 penalty minutes. The greatest junior stat line I've ever seen. How mad were you didn't get to 30 goals? How did you not get to 30 goals, and do you remember?
I remember why I didn't. I got suspended 4 games for trying to break a guy's arm in a penalty box.
In the penalty box?
Yeah, I jumped over the penalty box and tried to close the door on his arm.
Oh,
Okay.
How about that, though? That only got 4 games.
4 games to try to break the dude's arm.
Yeah.
With the
4
door.
games. My favorite stat is the year after, because I started the year in Buffalo. I didn't play any games. But we had a really good team. Then I got traded because they fired our coach. Story for another day. But I was an idiot to our GM at 19. I'm like, make a fucking trade. Like, we have a great team. 12 hours later, I was the one that was traded. I had like 18 points in 6 games, and they traded me. I was like, what the fuck? I go, I'm living in Quebec City with the hottest girls in the world. You can't trade me. They're like, you're going to Montreal and live in an apartment by yourself. I'm like, okay. Trade me. But yeah, the next year I had 111 points and 47 goals and 448. And my son always says, he goes, where did you have the time?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm like, well, there was no defense, no checking, and there was just great goaltending, but like there was no defense in the Quebec League at the time. So I played with some great teammates. I was very, very fortunate to play with some great guys. And but yeah, I love the Quebec League back then.
Barney, two further ones to that. One, how did an Ottawa guy or an Ontario guy wind up in the queue? Because there were a few guys that kind of went that route, but it was pretty rare, especially at that time. And secondly, you were in Victoriaville with Alexander Daig, were you not? At a time where, look, I mean, there's been a lot written and said, but at the time, you know, Daig was like a 3-point-a-game player in junior, right? Like, I mean, there's a reason why he went first overall in a draft that was loaded with the likes of Paul Kariya, Chris Pronger, right? I mean, give me a sense of how you wound up in the queue. And secondly, like, what do you remember from Daig at that time where he was clearly pegged as that sort of generational talent?
Yeah, my last year of Pee Wee, going into Bantam, we just moved from Ottawa. We had moved around a couple times, and we always rented like a townhouse. And like I said, we didn't have a lot of money, and we ended up buying a house on the Quebec side, plain and simple as that. So at 15 years old, I moved over there and ended up getting, it was, I never grew, you know, at 14, 15, 16, I was 5'2" at 16, 112 pounds. It wasn't until I was almost 17 that I grew to 6 feet and put on a little bit of weight. So I moved over there and got cut from Bantam a couple times, got cut from the midget AAA team, and then got recalled. But I didn't go up because I really liked my team, and I was in a great spot, and I didn't want to go up and sit on a bench potentially instead of playing like every shift in AA. So that's the story on how I went to the queue. If I didn't get drafted in the queue, and I got drafted last overall into the queue, which is a story on itself. I went to the draft and left crying and in the 15th round because someone told me they were going to take me in the 7th round. So I left the draft early. It wasn't until the next day that I found out that I was actually drafted with a real high pick of 240th overall. Literally, I think there was a guy walking around like, anyone willing to pay their own bus fare to come to training camp? And I would have been like, yeah, I'll come. As for Alexander Daig, I remember seeing him as a 16-year-old in the first time in our barn, and the guy had like 8 breakaways. Like he was the fastest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And when you went to their building in Victoriaville, they used to have, every time he touched the puck, the little Roadrunner beep beep would come on, and he would fucking take up off the ice. Like he was so fast. I never thought he was the best player in the league. There was a lot of really good players, but he was the most dominant by far. Like by far. Now he averaged 3 points a game, and he was great. And I didn't see the other players. You kind of remember who number 2 is. I know no one remembers number 2, but
Chris line. Yeah.
Chris Pronger, I remember a little bit. But playing with him was totally different. And he wasn't a great teammate in junior. He was all about me. And I got traded to Victoriaville only for the playoff run because it came full circle. The coach that I stood up for when they fired him and I asked to get traded from Beauport, he was our coach now again for Victoriaville. And when I went to Verdun in the middle of that whole thing, they kind of came up to me at trade deadline and said, hey, we love what you've done for our team. If you want to stay here, we were playing Laval with Marty Lapointe and all those guys. Like, we were getting bounced in 4 straight games. They're like, if you want to ride it out here, turn pro, we respect that. I said, you guys do whatever's going to be best for your franchise. If I have to move and it gives me a chance to win a Memorial Cup, I'm all for that too. So they ended up trading me, which I was really excited about because I'd never been in the playoffs in my first 2 years because we were an expansion team. And I went there and Alex was an amazing junior player. And it just didn't, we all know once you get to the NHL, speed's a great thing, but you better have Connor McDavid speed and also have the smarts.
Yeah.
You know,
Guys catch up.
D-men are too good. You don't beat guys wide one-on-one. Connor McDavid now we know can, but back then,
at the time, it was clutch. It was also the land of the Giants too, right? Like, everybody was getting drafted at 6'5", 220 and couldn't skate, right? It was just clutch and grab.
And all like I'd say 80% of his points were on breakaways.
Yeah,
80%. And he had a good first year. Just going off the top of my head, I'm going to guess he had like 52 points in his first year on a really bad Senator team.
He wasn't bad, to start.
No. He wasn't a bad player, and he was a good player.
Yeah. But people wanted Gretzky.
He just wasn't that. He doesn't think the game like that, and he doesn't have the skill level. He had the speed, but that was about it.
Speaking of the Senators, Barney, this is a little off topic, but you're right there, and it comes up quite a bit on our podcast. What the hell is going on with the Senators these days?
Fuck. It is a shit show here.
That's pretty much what we say too.
It's a shit show. Everyone's looking for quick answers, and if I can point to one thing, it's goaltending. And Razor can. If you don't have goaltending, I don't care how good your team is. Yeah. If you don't have a quarterback, I'm a New York Jets fan, and I got Red Zone right in the background right now to watch my team hopefully get blown out 40-0 and don't pull another year where they win the last 3 games and screw up a draft choice. They have good offensive talent. They got 5 young studs with the Stutzlas and Bathersons and Norrises and Kachucks, Shabbat and Sanderson. They have a lot of great pieces. But if you don't have goaltending, they haven't had goaltending in 7-10 years to solidify the fort. They give up more grade A's than anyone else. And that's kind of stereotypical of young teams, is you can be talented and you're going to let the offense, and you never want to harbor that offense because that's why you draft these kind of guys. The hardest thing is getting them to not cheat.
Yeah.
And protect the house and play a 200-foot game, because other teams are really good and they're more mature and there's growing pains through everyone. So they give up too many grade A's and they don't play well enough defensively. I love DJ Smith. I like Pierre Dorion. Time to go. And everyone knew when Andlauer, and I love how Andlauer came in, the new owner, and took his time. I think anytime you take over a company or a sports team, you don't come in and just fire everyone.
Right.
Draw your own assessments, watch closely. And I think with him and Steve Stais, they've done that. And now they're starting to make moves, and everything's in the interim. Listen, there's 6 teams out of the playoffs already, and this is one of them. They got 0 chance.
Barney, the one thing that drives me nuts, though, and we've talked about this in weeks past, but to get to this point, like all that goodwill that Andlauer comes in with to finally that fresh injection of life for this franchise that was needed after the passing of Eugene Melnyk, and hope that, hey, maybe this downtown arena gets finally built and nobody's driving 2 hours from the east end of Ottawa to go to a game. But then all of a sudden, Andlauer gets in. You have the Pinto situation that blows up. He gets suspended. You forfeit a draft pick, which looks like right now might be a top 5 pick, right? Like, how bad does that look right now? You fire Dorian. Now you fire your coach. I'm gone. And goodwill. Razor, you kind of said it before we dropped the puck on this scene. Is like, I'll believe it when I see it with this. You fucking nailed it, because this team they're skating in mud again. It's crazy how they can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, and people are just dying for it. Like they just wanting it because of the youth that is very talented. You have a great leader, and the way that he plays every single game, and how he's embraced the city of Ottawa and Brady Tkachuk being American.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I think everyone identifies with him because he's out at the bars after a big win, drinking and singing karaoke with the common folk. But people love, they
People love
want to get behind this team. Unfortunately, and it's awful what happened. How Andlauer came into this team, not knowing about the Pinto situation,
yeah.
losing a first round pick, like you said, if it ends up being a fucking top 5, like
You-
that's you just spent $1 billion. And I saw a number. It's like,
Yeah.
every first rounder is worth a certain amount of money, TV
Yeah.
rights, selling rights, and all that. And I don't know what a top 5 pick is, number 1 all the way down. You just spent $1 billion. Like, be upfront with the fucking guy.
Right, yeah.
Right?
No kidding, right?
Right? Like, be upfront with the fucking guy. So for that, and I love Pierre Dorian, but it was wrong. It was wrong for the NHL to not let them know what was going on at the same point. So again, they're in a situation where it's going to be play it out, trade Vladimir Tarasenko, and they're not in obviously a rebuild, but they have to. The goaltending's been horrendous. It's been bad, and they won last night 5-4 against Pittsburgh. But it's because they scored 5 goals. And we know the trend. We've seen the Edmonton Oilers. We've seen the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've seen them score 3 and 4 and 5 goals a game. When you get to playoffs, and not that they're going to be in the playoffs, if you can't win games 2-1 and 3-2, and Commie, you've won a Stanley Cup, you don't go into a game thinking you're going to win 5-4.
No.
You go in thinking you're going to win 2-1, 3-2. And if your staple is we're going to win this game 5-4, well, you're going to lose 8 out of 10 probably.
Yeah.
Barney, what's your best National Hockey League moment?
Everyone's going to say hat trick on Mother's Day. Playing against my childhood team, the Montreal Canadiens. My son was just born 8 days earlier. Mother's Day, my mom's in the stands, absolutely getting in one. By the way, for any young NHLers out there, when you get to playoffs and you tell your family you're going to get them a box, worst decision you could ever make financially in your life. Like
in Montreal, you got a box in the playoffs in Montreal.
I got it in Buffalo because my son was born, so my aunts are down, my mom's there. My mom's a lush; she can pound the fucking shit. And a box cost you like $5, $6, $7 grand back in the day. I don't know what they cost now, but I remember like 2 days later, I get it like an envelope in my stall. I'm like, it's not payday. We're not getting paid during the playoffs. And I open it up and it's a bill for like $7,700. They racked up. Not only did I give them the box for
In
12,
booze.
they rang up a $7,700 bar and food bill.
Just a lot of chicken wings.
The next game, I had the box ready for them again. They went to order their stuff. They're like, no, we need a credit card here. They each had like one drink. Yeah. When they're paying
It ain't free no more.
Oh yeah, but that was a great moment. But I'll still go back to the draft. Being cut the first couple times and being last overall pick in junior, to hear your name called in an NHL draft, it's something that I can never duplicate.
Where was the draft when you got drafted, Barney?
Montreal, baby.
Oh, it was in Montreal. Oh,
that's
geez.
why you remember it so well.
Back then, every second year was in Montreal.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I got a great story after. So I played junior in Montreal my last year. I said I got traded at 19.
Yeah.
So we're on Crescent Street, and I'm in a bar with a bunch of guys, and all these guys are wearing their fucking jerseys out to the bar like a bunch of losers. And I'm sitting at the bar with a bunch of
like
girls.
draftees wearing their jersey?
Oh, all of them. Oh, yeah. All of them. Jerseys, hats, and everything. And I'm at the bar, and in walks our scouting staff, not the GMs, because there was a party going on, but they were coming in for a few beers. It was Donnie Lever and Martin, a couple other guys. And they walk in, and they're like, where's your jersey? I'm like, wearing a fucking jersey. I can get laid without a fucking jersey.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You need a jersey in Montreal to get laid? Like, you're getting the wrong girl.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking funny.
Can't believe I was traded 7 times.
Where was your favorite spot to play? I mean, you had some good stops, Barney. Where, I know this is a common question, but like, where was your? You had to pick one of all the places you played in the NHL. Where would it be?
And then can we back that up? Can we just back it up with a New York? There's got to be a New York Ranger 2002, 2000. Like that roster, those rosters. Give me a story on that too. After you tell us how great.
Still one of my New York's one of my, like, we never made the playoffs.
I know.
Like, we were the LA Dodgers before the LA Dodgers.
Yes, ridiculous.
We had a $1 billion payroll.
Barney, you were the Mets in those days.
What's that?
You were the Mets in those days.
Oh yeah, like
Huge payroll and no winning, right?
Oh no! If you were only making $7 million, you were on the 4th line back then.
Hey, you were good there, Barney. Too. You were like a legit.
Kitchen.
Like
I was making like $1.8 million or $1.5 million, and I felt like so poor. Like,
and you were producing more than everyone else too.
So poor, like crazy. But I wish we could have won there. I wish I could have been there in like '94. Just because what a spot. You guys have been there. MSG is just electric, and you get fired up to be there as a visitor. It's like no other arena in the world. And you see all the plaques of Madonna and Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen as you walk into the dressing rooms. Yeah. My favorite story wasn't even, well, we're out in LA going to Anaheim, and we get to the bar, and we all know the rule, right? Like, get to the bar first, buy the coaches if they show up in the same bar. So we did that, and we have the bus, and Mess goes, "Hey, hold the bus," and we're in Dennis Rodman's bar, and it's like 2:30 in the morning. Literally over the microphone, I hear, anyone that wants to party back at the Ritz-Carlton, just go back to the bus and go upstairs to room 385, whatever the number was. Literally, we had a bus, our team bus, full of girls and guys, and went up. We had like 4 rooms up top and party like rock stars. It was a different spot. The one thing I didn't like about New York is we had it was very cliquey. Great guys, but everyone was doing their same thing. Pavel Bure was off in Hoboken or wherever he was with the Russians. Peter Nedved was with the Swedish elite models. It was just, everyone was all over the place, but great bunch of dudes. My favorite New York story is just something like funny because it really says what our team was like. Bobby Holik is one of my favorite teammates of all time. And you wouldn't think there'd be similarities because there's absolutely zero similarities between me and Bobby Holik.
No, not at all. I know Bobby a little bit. I agree with that. Yeah.
Bobby doesn't drink a lick. I don't think he's ever had a sip of alcohol in his life.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And he played hard. I played on the line a little bit with him, but we're doing power play one day and penalty kill. And we're sitting on the bench and I'm beside him and he just tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, "Barney, did they not watch me play for 10 years? I'm like, "I'm sure they did, Bobby. They gave you 45 fucking million.
Oh, I know. What a contract.
It's great. It's my favorite. He's like, I tell you, Barney, Bobby Holik on 3rd, 4th line, penalty kill, maybe 2nd power play, we win Stanley Cup. Right now, Bobby Holik, 1st liner, 1st power play. Book a vacation."
Well, he's honest.
Oh, yeah. He's the best.
Funny.
Living in Ocala, Florida, probably right now, just loving life. The guy's more American than any American I've ever met. Just a great teammate, great dude. But yeah,
very direct, like just very blunt, right? I always respected him. He was a fun guy to talk to that way because you just always got a really honest answer for him. I got to ask you about.
I got to go off that because you brought up another thing. We're in a video room. We just had a brand new practice facility. State of the art back then. It would have been like 02. And Glenn Sater is going. We lost like 20 in a row. However many in a row we lost, and he's going around to like Brian Leach and Mass, guys that won in 94. Like, is this the same system and same things, that accountability that we had in 94? when you won a Stanley Cup here, and everyone's like, yeah, yes, lads, yes, lads. They go to Bobby Holik. Bobby, is this the same thing like Lou and how you guys treated it in Jersey? And it was just a quiet silence.
Uh-oh.
Bobby just kind of sat there, pondered. He's like, absolutely not. The exact opposite what we have been taught my whole NHL career from Lou. No accountability here whatsoever. No systems. And I am like, holy fuck. Bobby, I'm like, Bobby, that was unreal. He's like, they still owe me $42 million. What are they going to do?
Oh, that's great.
I got to ask you about another teammate of yours that you played with for years in Buffalo. And man, when I look at the GOATs in terms of between the pipes, I mean, I still default to Dominik Hasek. Give me a sense of what it was like to have Dominator as a teammate. I mean, that Buffalo, like, you guys went on runs that at times felt like you guys were a lunch bucket crew, but in front of him, it didn't feel like you guys had much business going certain places, but you guys had success, and he was a huge part of that there, Barney.
Patrick Waugh, Marty Brodeur, Dominik Hasek. A lot of people can point to Marty Brodeur or Patrick Waugh, and listen, I if you played with them, I understand we always have a loyalty that way. Or Dom is by far, in my opinion, the best goaltender to ever fucking play the game.
Agree.
To me, there's no one even close.
Really?
Not even remotely close.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate the guy. The worst teammate ever. Ever. Hardest worker on the ice.
Yeah.
He would come in after the second period. We'd be down 2-1. Guys, give him breakaways. I stop him, just go score a goal. We'd fucking find a way. It would go off my ass or Pekka's ass or someone's ass, and we'd win the game 3-2. He without him, we don't make the playoffs probably 6 of those 7 years. That's how good he is. Dominant. The best of all time. But teammate, and the shit I saw this guy do and pull with teammates and fans, and listen, he's not a great dude at all. And when I say great, that's not what I want to use. This guy can be a serial douchebag at times. Now, I'm sure he's 75 years old now and a lot better. But no, I wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. and this is a guy, when he went to the Hall of Fame, his agent was Rich Winter. And I remember getting an email. Hey, Matthew, Dom would love to invite you to his Hall of Fame party in Toronto. And my response was, you know I hate him, right? You know I hate the fucking dude. I was paid a $50,000 bonus because I threatened him in Sports Illustrated that I was going to run him over in training camp. Like our team president, Doug Moss, came down and said, hey, Matthew, you can't do that. He's the best. The guy said, I know he's the best in the world, but he's a douchebag. And what he's doing to Ted Nolan is not right. And he's like, hey, how about, you didn't get that bonus for 50 points because you were out the last 6 games. Why don't I give you your $50,000 bonus as an appearance fee and you don't run them? I'm like, oh, absolutely.
So you got paid 50 grand.
50 grand not to run them. So I'm like, fuck, I can be bought. Like, I can still be bought.
No problem.
No question. I'm a very loyal guy, and I would never do anything for my friends for money. But if you want to pay me not to run over someone, I'm okay. First day of training camp, I slash him in the hand, and I get called off the ice. They're like, you said you wouldn't run him. I said, I didn't run him. I slashed him. Like, if you want to give me another 50 grand, I won't.
Give me another 50 grand. I won't slash him either.
So in the end, best goaltender of all time, not a great teammate.
And he got physical with a media, like a columnist, Jim Kelly, who was like a legendary Buffalo, like in the middle of the playoffs.
Dude,
like in the middle of the playoffs.
Ottawa.
Yeah, in Ottawa.
It was first because Dom quit on our team. He quit on our team.
He pulled up lame, right? Yeah, and Steve Shields had to come in.
Steve Shields came in. Dom came out. It was a whole battle between John Muckler, and I love John Muckler, passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
He gave me a chance and always treated me well. But there was a rift between Teddy and John. They hated each other, and essentially half our team was on one side, half our team was on the other. You were either with Dom and John, or you're with Patty LaFontaine and Teddy. And you kind of the team was split down the middle. And listen, there were some contentious days. There were fights in the locker room. But going back to that point, Dom faked an injury. I was there. I wasn't playing the game. I was trying to play through. My leg was all taped up. Couldn't go. He comes off the ice in between the tunnel in Ottawa. The room's off to the right, and I'm in there, and I'm like, "Oh, Dom's down." Like, as much as I don't like him, he's the best goaltender in the world, and we have no chance.
Yeah,
we have no.
We need him.
We have zero chance without him. So he's laying on the table. The doctor is playing with his leg. He's like, "All right." He goes, "I think you're going to be fine, and everything's structural." He goes, "It's just a pain thing, and should be back in 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, whatever it is." He's like, "No, 2 to 3 weeks." Anyone, Razor Kami, anyone says to you, a doctor in the playoffs, 2 to 3 days or a week, what do you say?
I'll be on the ice tomorrow.
I'll be on the ice tomorrow.
I'll be ready to go tomorrow.
Exactly.
Give me a shot. I'm ready to go.
I'll be ready. Get the horse medicine out.
Yeah.
Give me the Candyman.
Yeah.
No. He goes the opposite way. So right there, we're like, okay. Later on that night, going back to the bar days, him and Frank Musil were caught running out of the arena. Running, not walking. Running out of the arena. Jim Kelly saw him. And listen, reporters have a tough job. Jim Kelly, God rest his soul, maybe the greatest reporter I ever dealt with. And he wasn't always nice to me. And we had our battles. But I can tell you 100% unequivocally, honest as the day is long. And he's like, "Barney, I saw him running out of the fucking rink." I'm like, he's a douchebag. He's trying, this is a whole thing between the two. So our team, our GM, our president made us all, you can go to YouTube or fucking the clips. We're all standing there and look at me and Razor and Maisie were just like, we were forced to stand behind them as they read a thing about the whole incident that had happened. But he had choked Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly was right. Dom was wrong. And that would probably be the start of the downfall between me and Dom. Because I knew he pulled the plug on his team. And then I knew he lied and just couldn't trust him as a teammate as good as he was.
Yeah. That's shitty.
That's what a scene that would have been.
What a scene.
In the middle of the playoffs.
No, just everyone hating each other and the whole, like, nuts.
We used to call it every day the schmozzle. Like, our team just, me and Razor, like, would have words and things were going on. And not at that point. It became a little later, like when Lindy took over. But that whole fucking team was like, we on the ice, we were a fucking unit.
Yeah.
Off the ice, we were kind of divided. to say it mildly.
So Barney, like a more combustible version of the Rangers, then.
Yes. Yeah. Guys with the Rangers had too much money to care about hockey.
Yeah.
Game 7 before Ottawa, and we end up winning. Derek Plant scores in overtime.
Yeah.
We're having a team meeting the day of. And we had our PR guy who would do all the things, but he was on the GM side. Of course, he's going to be on the GM side and the president side over the coach's side. So we knew that. And Teddy Nolan saw that he was in our team meeting. And he goes, "Timeout." He goes, you fucking rat. Get the fuck out of our room.
Oh, Jesus.
And we all looked around and he stood up and he left. That's before Game 7. Calling our PR guy a rat and to kick him out of the room.
Oh, man.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've said it on stage before. I mean, if there's any team that I wish I would have been in Buffalo in the mid-90s. That would have been a hell of a time.
What a riot.
Hey, to add
Every
you
day
to,
is just what's going on now.
to add Big Red to the mix would have been just a debacle. We played hard, we partied hard, but man, we had some personalities, and then we had some weasels behind the scenes, like some players that were weasels behind the scenes. And trust me, sometimes like the threats on guys, like they didn't shut their mouth. Like right in the room. Like, I'm literally going to take my skate and slit your throat. Like, it was not good. Not good.
Oh man, that's fucking crazy.
Unbelievable, man. Like the stories. Barney, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks,
It is so
Barney.
great. Like, obviously, never had a loss of words and always great stories. And thanks for doing this.
You guys
Go
are
down
the
memory lane.
best.
And I like that Ottawa Buffalo series. It's funny being in Ottawa as kind of a new media member at that time, just the intense rivalry, just to kind of see how it was just starting to emerge, right? As the Senators going through the first 5 years just being terrible, and the Sabres were that and that was that taking that next level as well. It's too bad you didn't get a chance to see it through in Buffalo, because I mean that's what I define you as. I mean, you're a Sabre, right? And to not
I would have to, like, everyone, Pittsburgh, New York, but Buffalo. I played there 7 years, and it's funny. I had asked to get traded in '99 when they went to the finals against Dallas. And I went to Pittsburgh. Toronto knocked us out. Maisie got traded. Thank God they traded him. They didn't need him. Who needs a Maydog in the playoffs? So we're at game 6 though, and all me and Maisie are thinking we're in a box, and obviously we're drinking.
So you guys went to game 6. You were going to the Sabres games after you got dealt?
Well, we ended up in Buffalo. I went back to Buffalo because my wife and kids were there. Brad was in town for something I can't remember, but it was game 6. He's like, "Do you want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, I have a friend's box. So we went in the box.
Oh, shit.
And all we're thinking, like, I don't know if you guys have ever asked to be traded, but I have. And when that team you asked to get traded for goes to the final and has a chance of winning a Stanley Cup, and you've never won, and that's all you've dreamed about, listen, I know you're not supposed to say that. It's not. I don't give a fuck. I wanted them to lose so bad.
Yeah.
To see Dixon Ward and Rob Ray with those fat hands wearing a ring, knowing that I asked to get traded, would have been the worst. Like, I would have done something maybe drastic, and that's not. When they scored that overtime goal, me and Maisie, I can tell you, I've been drunk. I've never been in one like I was that night. and all he kept on doing was, "That's a goal. That's a goal. That's a goal." and we're talking 24 years later. Listen, I don't take anything back, because that would have ruined my life. I don't know if I'd still be here. It's a goal. I love Brett Hull more than life. I love the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
I love the Buffalo Sabres. I love you guys.
That's so
funny.
Awesome.
That's so funny.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you guys. Be safe. Love you all. Anything you ever need, keep up the awesome job. BODOG, let's go get one.
Yeah, I like that.
Thanks, Barney.
Thanks,
Right
Barney.
there.
Let's
Who's
do
gonna
golf
top
trip together in the new year here too.
All right.
Matthew
Cheers,
Barnaby
boys.
here on the Clearing the Crease podcast.